most dangerous job I had in Vietnam was a gunner, a 50 caliber gunner, or an M60 gunner, whichever machine gun we were using at the time. On the back of a Jeep, they used to call an M151. Okay, now we got that collage inside that actually has pictures of me standing behind that gun. I mean, there's no armor, there's no protection. There's two guys, there's a driver, and somebody in the passenger seat that's running the radio who has a little M60 mounted on the front of the M151. And you standing up in the back on this armor plate with absolutely no protection. I mean, you're a sniper's dream. All right, and what we did was, if there was an operation, say it was in the Iron Triangle, and there was a road, and when I'm talking about a road, I'm not talking about a paved road. I'm talking about there was a road, red clay, dusty as shit, that you would lead the column. In other words, behind you, there was armored personnel carriers. There was supply trucks. You would clear the roads. So what would happen was you'd have like two gun jeeps. It was almost like, well, you wouldn't remember it. There was a show back in the 60s, it was called A Rat Patrol, and it was about World War II. Same kind of gun jeeps. And you're just standing up there on the gun, and you're clearing these roads. Landmines, you know, that were designed to just blow you to smithereens. Snipers. I've had RPGs go so close to my head that my head went like this, you know. Because what you're doing, basically, you're just standing up behind this gun, you know, and that's your job. Your job is to recon by fire. If shit goes down, you're just supposed to be cutting down that jungle from wherever the fire is coming from. That's why they give you something like a 50 caliber machine gun. I mean, anything will go in one side of this house and come out the other, you know. Max range like 4.5 miles, you know. It's a 1/4 ounce bullet, you know. As far as danger goes, because there was no place to hide. You see, when you're in the jungle, you had the bush. The bush was your friend, because you could hide, and you'd be grease painted up. You know, you could camouflage yourself, you know, to actually you become part of the bush. You become part of the jungle. Driving down that road, and you're just standing behind that gun. You don't know where the fire is going to come from, and when it comes, if it doesn't hit you, you got to suppress that fire real quick. Then you get off the goddamn road, and you take your M16s and whatever, and you protect your Jeep. You get behind it, because you got sandbags on it and stuff, and you get behind your Jeep and you protect your Jeep. So, and that was my first thing that I did.
Do you have a moment? Can you recall one firefight that your first one, or that?
In Road Recon, yeah. It was in War Zone C, along the Cambodian border, and we were clearing a road by this. At the base of this mountain, it was called Dragon Mountain, and it was like one of the few mountains in that war zone. It was probably like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were running a convoy. It was when the 9th Infantry Division first came to Vietnam, which was, I guess, 1966. The latter part of 1966. And we were running from Vung Tau to the 9th Infantry. We had so much of an area to clear when we were working with this unit called the 11th Armored Cav that had tanks, and I mean, they had the big shit. But we were always out in front. And we took an ambush, which I have pictures of on my little collage. I mean, there's pictures of that ambush, you know. And we got ambushed, And it was the first time I didn't see anybody get killed or nothing like that in the ambush. But it was the first time, I actually heard like bullets go by, which were very strange because in the movies, bullets are making one noise, and in reality, they don't do that. They make a whole nother noise when they go by. And there was an old saying, as long as you could hear the click, because that's what it sounds like. It's like when they're going by, because it's a little thing breaking the sound barrier. So it's a little sound barrier explosion that's going by your ear. So all you hear is this click. And there's an old saying, as long as you're hearing the clicks, you're all right. Because the one that's going to kill you, you're never going to hear it, which is true. So that was the first time I was ever under fire.
How was your reaction?
I reacted the way I was supposed to react. I did my job. I cleared what I had to clear. And then, like I said, we got out of the Jeep.
All right, now, what about, tell us about that time where there was that mission you had to go on where there was that bend in the road?
Oh, that was Operation Attleboro.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was also that was the Iron Triangle. Yeah.
And so start that one off.
Well, it was this patrol that, every one of the patrols in front of us was getting hit. I mean, every time they'd come up to this certain point in this one village, and I forget the name of the village, but the patrol would get hit, and it was our turn to go out. All right. And I was on point. And from what I spoke to from the other guys that had tried to clear this road beforehand, I asked them was there any common denominator? Was there anything that happened to you that you could say and you could say, because they were both on different patrols. And finally it came out that there was this old lady that was like coming across the road beating this water buffalo from behind with this switch. And right after that was when they get hit. So I said to myself, well, maybe that's the common denominator that we're looking for. Maybe because there was a bend in this trail. It wasn't a road, it was a trail going through the village. And I said, maybe that's the common denominator that is happening here. And sure enough, she came right like almost where you're standing, beating this water buffalo. And I held up the patrol. And then my platoon sergeant sent out flanking units. And we went up the trail, and sure enough, we didn't get 15 meters before the shit started. But we had the flanks out. So the flanks came in and pounced on their positions. It was written up in Men's Magazine. And they wrote that article up on me. That was like one of the big war magazines at the time. There was Men's Magazine at the time was kind of like True Detective. It was a sensationalized bunch of bullshit. I mean, they made it sound like I was a hero in this firefight, and actually it had nothing to do with me. It was the flanks that took care of most of the shit.